think you're important because you want the job after this job. But you got to do this job first. And Gen Z, I think, is the first generation in history that refuses to do the job before the job. And I think it plays itself out in how they handle everything.
At the end of the day, if you come into the store and you ask me how I am and I say I'm okay, I still get my check. And I also don't feel like I'm dying inside having to follow this like corporate script of like, amazing, and who helps you today?
The way capitalism works is a carrot string, right? You put the carrot in front of me, I have the string, I run for the carrot. I need to be able to bite the carrot every now and then. If I get a taste of the carrot, I'm gonna keep running. If, like I think many Gen Zs see, the carrot is so far away there is no chance in hell I'm ever getting that carrot, I'm not gonna run anymore. Throughout high school and college, I worked in retail, and I hated every solitary second of it because it's the worst. But I felt like there's always I guess it is written, but also unwritten rule that like if a customer comes up to you and says, "How are you doing?" you say, "Good, thank you," because you're in a customer service role, and that's what you do. I've been in a couple retail environments lately. It happened one time and I dismissed it. And then it's happened a few more times where I've been served by a young person, a Gen Zer, and they've said, "How are you?" And I say, "Good." And then I say, "How are you?" And they say, "I'm okay." And it's taken me aback so much because they're saying what everyone knows out loud, which is, I hate it here. I don't want to be here. This sucks. I'm not being paid very much. But like, I'm not even saying this from a like these darn kids thing. I'm just appalled. Like, where's their manager? Like, how do they get away with this? And it's made me think like, does Gen Z just not care? Like, I don't know. It's such a small thing, but it sent me on like a spiral on the nature of work and this generation. So I wanted to throw it out to both of you about what, have you had similar experiences? What does this say to you?
I feel like maybe I have had similar experiences, but I just didn't even think to flag it as something that was strange because I also just assume that anyone that's at work is like not having a great time. So I would maybe more commiserate, like, "Oh, when are you getting off? Like,
right.
when are you done here? When do you get to leave? When are you free? Thank you so much. Like, I'll do everything. Don't worry about it." Like,
it's weird to see behind the curtain because, like, yeah, like you said, we know no one at work is having a good time, but like you're supposed to pretend,
right?
Aren't you?
Yeah.
Gen Z, there's a line in Transformers.
Oh boy.
Dark of the Moon.
Deep cut.
Where John Malkovich is talking to Shia LaBeouf and he's trying to employ him. He's trying to give him a job. And Shia is having a moment where he's like, "I've done things. You know, I'm important and I just want to matter again." It's a big moment. Michael Bay does a good job with the music. John Malkovich totally ignores him and he says, "You think you're important because you want the job after this job. But you got to do this job first." And Gen Z, I think, is the first generation in history that refuses to do the job before the job. And I think it plays itself out in how they handle everything. Everything.
Okay, counterpoint. They said the same thing about us, about millennials. So.
Yeah, and we were worse than our parents. I'm agreeing with the trend.
You know what, though? Sorry.
You think people are getting worse at work or caring less?
Worse at doing the jobs they don't like. Okay. Like, I remember when I was a kid, my dad always used to say, "You do what you have to do to earn the right to do what you want to do." So like when I was in high school, even like fresh out of college, I didn't expect to like the job I had. I expected it to pay me for me to get enough experience to then earn the right to try and get the job that I would enjoy. Now I'm talking to people like grade 11 being like, "Man, I don't think this job's for me." Like, what do you mean it's not for you? They pay. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I think we're trending away from that because there's also jobs my dad did I would not have done. So it's happening generation by generation by generation as things become more and more efficient, but also media and television is also making comparisons such the enemy of it, right? Because you're seeing people that are your age or your contemporaries that are not doing this job that seem super happy in that job. So that's why everybody thinks they want to do that job. That's why a lot of, and it's not negative, but this is why women of a certain profile all became lash techs. Men of a certain profile all became real estate agents, and women as well. I'm not being gender negative about it. Men of a certain profile all became personal trainers. And then I'm living in the reality now of those people saying, man, can you believe there's no customers or clients? Yeah, because you don't really want to do this. You did it because you saw a post or read an article once that said that people were making money doing this. Whereas the fact of life is you got to do what you have to do to then earn the right to do what you want to do.
I don't know. I mean, I think that you brought up a really good point of like the generation before always thinks that the generation that follows them is like really lazy and they're appalled by their like entitlement. You know what I mean? I mean, like even with boomers who are now like held to the standard of being super hardworking and willing to put in those extra long hours were considered like the me generation by their parents. And so I think ultimately it's like what you see is the generation that follows looking at how the generation before navigated these like exploitative systems and trying to gamify it a little bit. It's like at the end of the day, if you come into the store and you ask me how I am and I say I'm okay, I still get my check. And I also don't feel like I'm dying inside having to follow this like corporate script of like, amazing. And who helped you today? Right. You know what I mean? And I think that's also a part of it. It's like, you still collect your check and without, I guess, the cost of like not feeling like yourself or just being completely exploited and like sucked dry for those 8 hours that you're under the fluorescent lights listening to pop music.
Yeah, but this is also why this was inevitable. I'm going to make a big reach. This is going to be a big stretch, a Bikram yoga stretch. I think that this lack of commitment to even the attempt at pleasant human connection is why both AI and online shopping is eliminating the mall experience and the Gen Z job. If you don't want to fake hello me, then I will just go online and click. I can fake hello myself. If you're not going to emote when you speak with me, if there's not going to be that human touch, then I will just use the AI answer dialer person. Because you're just reading a script. You're putting nothing, but there's no soul. Then if there's no soul, then you can be replaced.
So you would rather have a manufactured fake interaction that's pleasant than a genuine interaction with someone who might just happen to have been tired and exhausted. Like, how does that, how are you not then having an authentic, real interaction with a person when you say, hey, how are you doing? Okay.
You're asking me that like unless you don't know the society we live in. People pay for good fake over real bad all the time.
I don't think the decline of retail spaces has anything to do with the people in them. I think every time I have gone to a physical store, I have looked for the thing I wanted. I have not found it, and I have ordered it on Amazon.
Right.
That has nothing to do with the Gen Z behind the counter. That has to do with the person stocking the shelves, who is probably a manager who's my age or older, who's doing a bad job. I mean, I see the attitude more as like Jade said, a response to the reward. Like I believe in a perfect world, every employee of like a retail store should have profit sharing, because then you would want to care about the experience. Like,
you don't believe, every time people say this, I'm like, you don't believe, okay, if they have profit sharing, do they also share when the revenues are low? Will you give back some of your paycheck if we're not doing business this month?
No, your paycheck is a base level. And if there's no profits, you don't get any profit sharing. You share in the profits.
Okay.
The guy at the top gets to make like $800,000.
So think of it. So if I'm a business owner and I carry a loss for like 5 years, I still owe you your check for all 5 of those years. Mm-hmm. And then let's say at 5 years and 1 month, I make a profit. I have to split it with you. I don't get that money back for carrying this thing.
So you at the top are the only reason that company made profit? Then you just fire everyone.
But I'm the only. But I was the only one. Myself and maybe some of the other executives were the only ones carrying the losses. What benefit do I get for carrying the losses? When the company wasn't profitable and you were still employed, what do I get for that?
You get to run an extremely profitable company and make hundreds of thousands of dollars.
But how is it extremely profitable if I have to just give you some?
Because they have to run the store.
Yeah, that's what your wages are for.
Yeah. And if you want people to have a monotone voice and not give a shit, then don't give them any profits.
No, but this is the Gen Z argument.
Why would anybody be?
You're making it seem as if what you're getting is not enough for me to ask you to show up and try.
It isn't.
And you also have But you also have to acknowledge that the generations before being like, yeah, this is not enough. And you do have to raise the standards as why like workers have more rights and Do you know what I mean? The minimum wage was raised. Like, this is just the way that this works.
I don't think,
You know
I don't
mean?
agree with the argument you're making because you knew the wages of the job before you took it. Don't take it and not try. If the money's not good, don't come to the interview. Don't take the job. Why would you take it to not try?
Because there's no other jobs. There's no other option.
I remember one time I had this job. I'll even say the company. I was at Manulife.
Yeah.
Okay. And the way I got to Manulife is I was through like a work agency to start with. So the way the work agency works is like you're there for like 6 months. And then Manulife had the option to buy my contract.
Yep.
So for 6 months, the work agency was the one paying me. And then Manulife notified them like, hey, we do like him. We want to keep him on or whatever. So then I got into negotiation on what my salary would be. And we're having a discussion.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like baseball arbitration. I wanted my salary here. They were coming here. And we couldn't find the middle ground. Essentially, it got to a point where she's like, take it or leave it. So obviously I took it because I needed to be employed. But I didn't stop trying at work. I just immediately started looking for new work.
Sure, but...
And then I remember, because the other thing was like 2 months later, I found a new job and I left. And she actually kind of got mad. She's like, well, if you knew you were going to leave, why did you like even take the position? I'm like, well, if you knew it was a risk of me leaving, why didn't you up the salary?
Yeah, so...
But I still tried. You still have to honor the person that's employing you. They didn't give me nothing. They didn't give me what I thought I was worth.
Yeah.
So then, yes, I let me go to the market and see if I can find my work. But I should not try at where I'm currently getting compensated. That concept is so Gen Z to me.
No, look, I agree with you. The idea of not trying my best is crazy to me. But that's just, and I get that like a lot of people are like that. That's just the way I am. Like I can't not try. That feels wrong.
What about my self-pride? What about like, I don't have my own respect. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like I used, whether it was paying me well or not, no matter the job, I took personal pride in being good at what I was doing. I come here, I give it 8 hours a day. I don't want to be the mess up. I used to work at a call center. Those people who were just messed up all the time, getting stuff wrong. It's embarrassing.
But I feel like there's also a reality where there are some people that aren't so identified with their job.
Yeah.
At the call
it's not
center
a job. It's a pull to excellence in whatever you're doing.
But who's to say that they aren't doing that with their side hustle or their hobby or whatever else outside of what it is that gives them their check or pays their bills or like, I feel like
that's such another Gen Z thing. You're not allowed to tell me, oh, I'm not trying at work because I do this thing I paint with great passion on the weekend. Like, I don't like this thing of like, I've earned the right to be atrocious here because this is not really my passion.
No, I think that millennials to some extent were the last generation to really buy into the lie of capitalism, which is
it's not a lie. Why do we keep saying this?
Because it is a lie for most people.
What is better than capitalism?
Okay, we're not talking about alternative systems. To
no, I know, but like, because it's easy to poke holes. Every system has a weakness.
No, look.
What is better than what would you want?
This is not my point. The way capitalism works is a carrot string, right? You put the carrot in front of me. I have the string. I run for the carrot. I need to be able to bite the carrot every now and then. If I get a taste of the carrot, I'm going to keep running. If, like I think many Gen Zs see, the carrot is so far away, there is no chance in hell I'm ever getting that carrot, I'm not going to run anymore. And I think...
Then you'll die of hunger because you won't even get a morsel of a carrot.
You're going to die anyways.
Well, yeah, but also I think that's what you're missing. It's like, but I find purpose in other things other than this carrot.
Right. So I'm not running at the capitalist carrot anymore. I'm running at the friend's carrot, not running at the romantic relationship carrot because I don't know what the hell Gen Z is doing with romantic relationships. But I don't think... For example, for someone working in retail, I don't see any tangible reward for trying harder.
Oh my God. Yo.
You're going to get a manager position that pays
CEO
25 cents.
Do you know where the CEO of Nike came from? Like, do you know what? I'm asking you a question. I'm asking you a question. Do you know the first job of the current CEO of Nike? But do you know what it is?
I don't care.
It doesn't matter to you that he worked in retail?
No.
Why doesn't it matter to you that he worked in retail?
Daddy money.
Oh my gosh. And okay.
You're going to tell me you didn't have daddy money?
No, but that core assumption is the problem because you can't
But it's always true.
But because you can't conceive of a world where this guy who was literally just stocking the shoes in retail by strength, the sweat of his brow, and hard work worked his way into a position where he can now be the CEO of Nike. You think the only way is he gamed the system by having favors from ergo, rich parent, rich uncle, rich whatever.
You know what that also kind of reminded me of as you were saying that? Like the CEO of Nike, where did he start? Like, you know, when you go to those MLM meetings and they're like, I drive a BMW and I live in a mini mansion. And it's like, yeah. And what about every other person?
It's hard to be successful at anything. We talked about this, and this is, I think, maybe the bigger issue with society. I wish we lived in a meritocracy that mirrored the high school environment, right? Like we were talking about this once, where I'm like, if you go to high school and you don't want to be a high achieving student and you kind of just want to show up every day, you do some of the homework, you don't do some of the homework, like but you show up, right? And you give it a try. You'll get a C and you'll pass. If you stop going to class and you totally don't engage, that's when you fail, right? If you're a B student and you give it, then you get, and then if you really want to be high performing and do all the extra work and extra credit, then you become an A student, right? The frustration I have and the current weakness of capitalism and the current weakness of society, and I think this is what Gen Z is bothered about, is it feels like that's how it is in high school, right? This thing. And then now it feels like we get into the real world and it's like, if you're not trying to be an A student, you can't survive. It's like, if you're not trying to work a job, work a hustle, and have two other things that pay you, then if the Gen Zs and a lot of the millennials are like, then I'm not going to live. Like that feels so unfair to me that I have to be high performing to live. And I agree that is flawed. I think it's in particular in particular in the largest countries in the world, it should be illegal in countries that have as much capital surplus as we do for people to get sick and die in this particular country or be home in this particular country, right? There should be a percentage of our corporate purse that just goes to the lowest performing of our people. It should be capped, but for those who are sick, for those who can't work, for those, there should be the country saying, you know what, like we're doing well enough that you shouldn't die here. But I still don't even think that's a tax raising. I think that's a tax reallocation question, but it still doesn't preclude or prevent the requirement to try. And I think my concern is with the carrot argument. Okay, sure, it's a carrot, but this is not an argument against trying. To me, you should still try. And then if you're going to say, oh, there's an alternative, I don't want to run the way. Okay, what is the alternative to chasing the carrot and trying like hell?
Like a million other things.
Tell me, what is it?
I think it depends on the person.
In your opinion?
For some people, it's self-knowledge. For other people, it's art. I don't know. That's the whole thing, though. It's like,
you're having such a violent reaction to the idea that people don't find their value in their work.
Right.
I'm not talking about not finding value in your work, but like, okay, self-knowledge, right? Cool.
Yeah. Okay. Somebody else might be like working hard.
So why are they trying to better yourself? Why are they trying to better yourself and figure out who you are? Who's paying for your food?
No, well, we all got to figure out a way to make a living, but I don't think that's the
at
argument
your
that
jobs.
we're trying
I'm not
to
saying
make.
don't have self-knowledge, but when you're working retail, I had a friend once who he married this woman, and she was like, look, I don't want to work hard, right? She goes, I understand I have to work, but she goes, I want a job that I can go do and leave when I'm done. I don't want to be like, essentially, like, I don't want to hustle. Like, I'll have a job, but I don't want to hustle. I thought it was the most fair, understanding, realistic. And then, because she was being honest about it, gives me so much time to then still be me when I'm home. Like, my job doesn't consume me. That's a fair argument. My issue is that people are just not engaging in society. They're taking self-knowledge to the fullest and thinking that we should pay for that.
I think we lost the plot.
Yeah.
The point is not that your self-actualization is making you not try at work. The point is, I read it's a Reddit post, so obviously take it with a grain of salt, but it was a manager saying, like, all of my Gen Z employees get Uber Eats for lunch every day. I know how much money they make. They're spending all their money on Uber Eats. Why are they doing this? And like all the responses were like, they don't ever think they're moving out of their parents' house. They don't ever think they're getting an apartment. They don't ever think they're getting a better job. So they're just saying fuck it, and they're buying the Uber Eats
and that isn't their own fault. Like, it goes to my point.
But if you're
because that is okay. Do you see that is a symptom? That is a symptom of saying, "Oh, I'm not chasing the carrot." If it doesn't matter, why should I save? If I'm never going to get out, why should I?
Right.
That is your own fault. You're proving a theory that you're not even experimenting with.
But I think that's the thing, though. It's like ultimately, maybe people just feel apathetic because they look at these systems that we have in place and they don't see how they are able to gamify the system in any way, shape, or form, or reallocate these funds.
That's not true. They just don't like the numbers. If every Gen Zer who left high school took a regular retail job and saved a relative percentage of their paycheck, there's a metric on this. By like 45, they don't own a house. Now, granted, I'm not saying that that's
45.
No, I'm not saying that's romantic. I'm not saying that's romantic, right? But I'm not saying it's romantic, and I'm not saying that math is right. I'm saying we gotta work that way, Lord. There's such a problem with that math. But it's not an impossible task. This is what I'm trying to say. We frame these things as an impossible task. It's not.
But we talked about this before we were recording, the difference between people's interactions with facts and with emotions. I understand if you put all of the economic facts about Gen Z in a spreadsheet and showed it to us, I'm sure we can map out a course for every Gen Zer working the shittiest job to have the best economic outcome. But that doesn't change the way that people feel about their material situation, which is that, like I said, I think the millennials were the last generation to wholeheartedly believe that if we worked hard, we would get all the things our parents had, not all of our parents, but many of our parents had, which was stable jobs, a house, a nuclear family, all of these things. And I think continually with future generations, that goal has gotten harder and harder to reach, and hard work has been less and less of a predicator to reaching that goal because there's so many other factors.
I also think that it's a little bit of a myth that Gen Zs just lack ambition and don't want to work hard. Like, I don't necessarily think that that's true. I think there are a lot of Gen Zs that actually do work incredibly hard.
I agree.
And maybe what people have an aversion to is this like sort of apathy, and there's this sense of like, I'm trying, but like I don't really care because, again, my material situation looks so bleak. But I do think that like a lot of Gen Zs are very ambitious. I would argue a desire to do work that feels purposeful, where you feel like driven towards something that has like a larger meaning than just collecting a check, which I think a lot of young people feel is very ambitious. I would argue wanting to create a life for yourself where you have a work-life balance, where you don't have to be so identified with your role or what it is that you do at work because you have a whole rich life outside of that, is also very ambitious. I think that maybe we look at the current landscape and choose to navigate it differently than millennials did or boomers did, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there's something wrong with the way that we're choosing to navigate these systems. And arguably, older people always think that the way that younger people are choosing to navigate these systems is flawed. And I was willing to, have all this grit and take the job that I didn't want to do in order to do the job that I eventually have now today. And it's like, I think that at the end of the day, what we've seen across time and the kids will be all right, and it's like, maybe you might not agree with the way that they're choosing to approach work or their retail jobs or whatever else. But I also don't really like the narrative that's being pushed, that it's like, we're just lazy and we don't want to leave our parents' basement and we want to order Uber Eats all the time and lack ambition and drive, because that's just not true.
Look, obviously based off just math, right? This is something I believe, but like nobody really usually believes this. Year over year, I think society is actually getting better. Year over year in terms of like comparing society to what it was like in the 60s, right? You can travel places faster now. You can get more information now. The food is healthier now. Or you have access to healthier food now, sorry, I should say. The water's cleaner. There's more places for clean. Like, I think year over year, yes, there's still problems. But if I compared living in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, I don't not like my chances in 2025, okay? With that, things have gotten ridiculously expensive. And there is no, I listen to a lot of people. I've heard and see of no economic plan that ever expects to be able to correct that, right? Like everybody says it's worse. It's only going to get worse. I see no plan to curve, the cost epidemic, nor any real plan to increase people's revenue to help them fight. It is terrifyingly sad, okay? That being a fact, it's not that there aren't Gen Zs that are incredibly ambitious, because Gen Zers have done things, particularly in social media, that, millennial. I Show Speed, we're talking about I Show Speed. I Show Speed like 21, you know what I mean? He's like 21, 22 years old and started his channel during COVID. it is probably the greatest business COVID idea I've ever seen in terms of, right? So, and this is a Gen Z mind who's like, I can monetize this. I'm gonna. So I'm not saying that these things are negative. I just think that the messaging that both millennials and every other generation probably has to give to Gen Z so that it gets better is, hey, yes, it's a problem, but the way to fix this problem isn't maybe to be on opposite sides or to punt the issue. We still have to engage in it. And I think like there feels like this sense of disengagement because the fight feels futile is what I'm saying. I'm not calling Gen Z lazy. I'm far from it. I think that it's very hard to be lazy, particularly in this region. I just feel like more and more of Gen Z, instead of trying to reform the systems that we see and make their voices heard, are stepping away from them and just criticizing them from a distance.
But here's the thing with that. I think even the decision to disengage is a form of protest that can result in like real change. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think that even like the inaction or the apathy is, in a manner of speaking, an action or response to.
Okay, that's fair.
And like, so I think even with, that's what I mean. It's like, it maybe looks different, but I do think that like ultimately most people want to lead a good life and be independent and, you know, take care of themselves and their families. And I don't think that Gen Z lacks that just because maybe they don't seem as engaged and also another thing, like, I think we just have to acknowledge, like, even the job market right now, it's just like not as easy, or it doesn't feel as easy.
It's not as easy.
And I'm not saying that it was easy before either, like the 2008 recession or whatever. Like it's never easy, but I think even just like getting your foot in the door and like actively having somebody that like wants to help you launch your career or wants to mentor you, that is even more difficult. So it's like, what do you do with that?
Do you see your friends getting like callbacks and stuff when they send out resumes and everything like that?
No. I mean, I've had friends, I don't know how actively they've been like, but like who have been unemployed for like over a year. Like it is. And just punching
resumes daily and still
daily, or friends that are, you know, in entry level jobs where they're just not getting any mentorship. They're not being supported. They're kind of like, it feels like very much a dead end. Like, I just don't think that even
that one I have less, but that one I have less understanding for it. There was a job I got into like 4 months in. They get into the job, we have all these opportunities. I think 4 months in, I'm like, oh no, they want me to die in this position. Dead end jobs is not a new thing. There are going to be dead end jobs until the end of time. Once you're in the door though, once you're employed, I don't care what it is that you're doing. Once you are collecting a check, you have reclaimed some of the leverage, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. In my opinion. And I think my millennial perspective has been, I never hesitated to take and I never saw my identity in my work because I always had my passions and stuff I wanted to do, but I knew I needed a job. So my metric for any job I did, what do you pay? I would look at my bills. How close does it get me? How much over does it get me? I don't care what I have to do here. I don't care what I have to learn. I don't care that I have to do it with a smile. Do you pay enough for me to feel comfortable? Or then there was one time where it's like, man, it doesn't pay enough, but I need something. And then you get in that job and you're looking. But the ability to be employed, that's another thing that Gen Z's done. Gen Z makes it seem as if having a job is like dying or something like that. Like, you know, you have a job, you have a 9 to 5. Well, is that your whole identity? No, like, it's not like I didn't have an identity when I was working. You know, wanting to be good at your work doesn't inhibit you from having opinions or liking art or going to the movies or theater.
No, 100% not. I don't think that Gen Z, to speak for us all,
yeah.
I don't think that they feel that way. You know,
I only say that in response because you make a point before where you're like, oh, just because I don't want to have all my identity wrapped up in work and like, I want to be self-talented.
To me, what it sounds like when it's like, oh, like if you aren't rock star killing it at the Gap, you don't have like a sense of pride. And I don't think that's true. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's true. And I also think there are a lot of people that are like, I don't care to like rock star kill it at this job. I just need to like do what I need to do so that I can collect my check. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that because ultimately a company will lay you off and not think twice about it. So it's like, I'm self-focused and self-interested, as was every generation that preceded me.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and I don't think that should be villainized. I think it's also like, yeah, it can be very confronting, but I think that also maybe goes hand in hand with like, I think Gen Zers, like there's a lot of like really valorize authenticity. Like, I mean, it's like kind of a little trite, but like everyone wants to be authentic and like true to themselves. And so maybe even the way that you choose to like engage with the work that you do, like, does it feel authentic? Like, does it feel authentic to me to say that I'm doing really well today when I'm doing just okay?
Why doesn't it feel authentic to pay your bills?
Well, I'm still paying my bill when I say, okay, what do you want? What do you want? You're still gonna get your sweater. Like,
there's one comparison. Every time I go to a Home Depot and I'm doing some kind of home project, I'm just gonna call him Walter. I'm gonna call all of them Walter. Walter is like in his 60s and he knows everything about every tool that has ever been invented. I'm pretty sure Walter's making like $16 an hour, but Walter loves it at Home Depot. And
God, I love those guys. I know exactly what you're talking about. They're always so helpful.
I don't know even how to get to be a Walter. Like, I like tools. I don't think I could do. I would still be mad if I worked at Home Depot. So like, I don't even know what my question is. I just see such a comparison, and I don't know if it's because Walter's retired and like he doesn't need the money. He just wanted a hobby sort of thing. But I don't know. Maybe it's like once your material needs are met, then you can find satisfaction in a job like that.
I don't know. Like, I think, okay, for example, I have a dad that worked like his entire adult life in this country and never liked it.
Yeah.
But I think like not like he's not an individual, but there's honor in that, I think. You know, especially when you're a father or, you're trying to have a family or whatever. When he first came, it's like, hey, I'm a new immigrant. I just got to get something. And then he was just doing that. Then it was, man, I think I want to, I want to date this girl, man. I need something more. And then he was just doing that. And then it's like, man, it looks like I'm going to be a father. And he was just doing it. And I'm doing that. And then I'm going to have another kid. I got to do something. I'm just doing that. So, I mean, it's like 40 years of that. And I just don't think he would have been able to do that if he paused and thought, like, is this authentic? And I don't want to lose those people in our society, because people like that create and give option and give opportunity to society to sometimes create a lot of greatness. Like, somebody working like that gives Jade and I the opportunity to say, hey, I wonder if what we're doing is authentic or how we feel about stuff.
Yeah, but I also feel like it's part of the whole system to glorify people like that, people who had to work jobs they hated for 40 years. And
you don't think that should be glorified?
No.
Everybody can't do a job they love.
I know.
So then, what honor do we give the people that took it on the, say, like, literally took one for the team? No, if not to glorify them.
I understand from, your perspective saying, thank you, Dad, for doing that.
Yeah.
Your sacrifice. But I think we glorify conceptually, wow, look how hard this guy worked. The jobs he hated just to provide. And like, I agree with you, that will always happen. There's never going to be any society under any system where everyone is doing what they love.
Like, I have a friend right now. He's my age. Right? You know him. Does not like his job. Hasn't liked it since he's been doing it. I remember when he got it.
Yeah.
But I think the reality is, too,
he's a father, and he has to do something for his kids.
Never lose those people.
Yeah.
We all just...
There'll always be someone willing to...
Or just like everyone has to get by.
But he works hard. That's my point. He tries at his job. He's never liked it. He's been... I think for the past 2 years now, we talk. He's like, I got to get out of here. But he'll work every overtime. Because it's like, that personal sense of pride. I got to do... And his reward is that, you know what? I'm providing for my family in a way that feels responsible.
Yeah. I think this is another topic. A lot of this comes back to our fetishization almost of individualism. It's like, what if your dad had just had a community of people who had helped? Like, he would have always had to work, but like, we don't talk about or glorify like communal support or having a support system sort of thing. It's like, well, he's a father, so he has to work and provide for his kids. I'm not saying like one of these things is better than the other. I'm just saying like it comes back to what we've been talking about having your whole identity in your work. It's like, there's many other ways to survive in this world, and there's many other ways to like have meaning, and constantly having it focused on like, did you give your heart and soul to your work so you could provide for your children?
So you think Gen Z is it that I'm a millennial and I'm still Like okay, is it as simple as Gen Z is the first generation that is trying to expect more out of their life than just being a cog in a machine? Like en masse? If I'm trying, is Gen Z the first generation en masse that is expecting more than to just be a cog in a machine?
I think, well, I don't know, this thought's kind of messy, but like, I think that every generation has felt that way and just like chose to express it differently. Like in a way, let's say dad working a job that he hated for 40 years to provide for his family. That was his way of not just being a cog in the machine. You know what I mean? Because it's like, I derive meaning and purpose from being this provider and taking care of these people who I'm taking ownership and responsibility for. And that's what that looked like. And maybe for you, it's, I'm going to work really hard at this job that I hate so that I can get the job that I want so that I can eventually work for myself and find this sense of like independence and status and stability and security. And then maybe for somebody else, it's like, I want to have a work-life balance and I want to have a hybrid job where I can also work from home or work remote and travel. Like, I think that like, that's just a human, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's like, we all want that and we all feel that. And it's like the narrative that you tell yourself to kind of make it through and like make it your own, because you just have to exist in these systems that suck.
Yeah. I think from the outside, what I see with Gen Z is the intersection of the desire to adopt rigid societal structures and the desire to dismantle them. Where, like, if you look at particularly young white men, like, are returning to religion in huge numbers, you know, the rise of misogyny and patriarchy as a political ideology. And then on the other hand, you have like relationship anarchists and, you know, like people who are rejecting typical societal structures and all these things. And I think it comes down to the same desire, which is like, the world kind of makes no sense right now. And one side is saying, let's go back to when it did make sense, or when I think it made sense. And the other side is saying, it doesn't make any sense. Let's stop doing all the shit we've been doing for the last 100 years and do something else. I agree with what you said. Like, I think every generation doesn't want to feel like they're a cog in the machine, but I think Gen Z is doing it in a very interesting way. And I feel like, although this always happened, like as a millennial, I kind of always felt, at least in my 20s, that we were mostly on the same page. There were outliers, but I was like, I think we all kind of know where we're going. I think that divide has gotten wider as I've gotten older. But again, at least from the outside, I don't see that with Gen Z. I feel like Gen Z is like all over the place.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's exactly it too. I think you touched on something so key. It's like the world to a lot of people just like doesn't make sense. And I think that like, I don't know if you guys noticed this, which is like younger generations, but like this like anxiety, and there's always this thing of like, are you doing the right thing? There are like a million different routes that you feel like you could take and you don't know which way is the right way. And then I think there's also this like pressure that younger generations feel to not mess up and not do the wrong thing. It's like, there's this fear of like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know if there's this safety net that will catch me. And so maybe it's just better to just be apathetic and like, I don't really care, you know, like that's like safer, but really underneath that is just a lot of fear of just like the uncertainty of like the world that we find ourselves in, and like whether it will be possible to find fulfillment and security and stability and all those things.
Truly well said.
I think my last point is, I was reading about this the other day about how back in, I think it was like 1880, a union in Wisconsin just got gunned down by their employer because they were trying to get a 5-day work week in 8-hour days, like literally murdered. And I think
it was American Express. No, I'm joking.
Oh my gosh.
What's interesting about now is that all of our problems are so esoteric. Like, how do you fight climate change? How do you fight the billionaire class? How do you fight these things? There's no way to. You just kind of like, I'll do my best. And I wouldn't rather live in the 1880s, but their enemy was clear. It was the railroad. It was the mine,
Mhm.
you know? And I think just the way that like human brains are wired, like the way the amygdala is wired, it's like you're anxious because you're supposed to be fighting a threat.
Mm.
When you get anxious, it's like, oh shit, there's a tiger. Like I need to either fight this tiger or run
Mhm.
away.
Mhm.
When you're like, the climate will warm and I will die in 80 years from the water wars, it's like your amygdala is just like, I don't know what to do with this information.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like I feel for the younger generation that all of the biggest problems in our world are like unfightable, or at least feel unfightable. And I think that's part of why like everyone just feels so like apathetic and anxious all the time. Cause like, what do you do?
Yeah. Ultimately, we're just like coping with the existential weight of being.
Well, I've enjoyed this, guys. Until we do it again next year, Opposites React. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. You have no idea how much it helps the channel. For Spoke, my name is Travell.
Jade.
Ryan.
I will see you guys next year.